On today's Minute of the Apes, to love a dog is to know one day you will cry.
Divine bomb. There is fire, there is smoke. Now, fight like a minute of the apes. A minute of the apes. A minute of the apes. A minute of the apes.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. I'm Todd. That was Sean, and I've got Richard across from me. And Sean threw that out because this week I had the sad task of saying goodbye to my sweet boy, Jake, who was our 90-pound Golden Retriever Basset Hound, and he just finally had gotten old enough, strokes were taking over, and he just couldn't even stand anymore. And I'm going through it because as I crack a beer, I wrapped it in my Chewbacca koozie and my wife got it for me because when Jake was his younger self, he would look at you off and go, ooh, oh, 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 and he would make the Chewy sound. So in fact, his collar is over there by my Chewy thing, and it's the bandolier, and his bed was the same thing. Richard went through the same thing with Skipper.
Recently.
Yeah. And just that sadness that you don't even realize sometimes what a presence they are in your life until, and I think that's probably true of anything that leaves your life.
But and it's one of those things where it's different when they die versus if they go to the hospital or they're visiting somebody else for a night. You know they're going to be back, but it's that hole when you know that hole's not going to be filled again.
We opened the door this morning, and one of our greeters wasn't there, and it was,
And Jake was a big boy, and I'm telling you, if he loved you, and he loved everybody you met. You knew he was like, hey, I like you. I want to be here with you. And I even thought that as I opened the door for y'all, I was like, oh, there's Lucy and my sweet little beagle. But at the same time,
she gave us a little bit of love, but it wasn't the same.
It wasn't Jakey.
Jake, yeah.
And so it's just the weirdness of it. And
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you also saw when you went downstairs, did you see that we got his ashes back, and Shelley will not put them up yet. They're still on our island because she needs to see them.
Well, I didn't see it on the island, but that's the exact same thing with JJ. When Nala died, she still has the ashes on her bedside table next to the bed.
Still.
So I feel like
it's been more than a year.
I feel like the weird one in this, we have a open enough backyard that the three that have passed over they've been buried in the backyard.
Oh, they've been buried out there.
Yeah, and so it's kind of a next level to bring a body home, dig a hole, and lay them down and cover it up and know that she's in her favorite sunspot. But there's just a next level of kind of handling the body and doing all of this stuff. It's a process that I don't enjoy, but for me it's part of the letting go. And the other dogs, I like to let them know that
they're there.
That the dog just didn't disappear, stuff like that. So they get to see Skipper and kind of process what's going on and so on.
We talked a bit about it because Jake loved the backyard. If I went to work in the backyard, he would literally go lay in the middle of the yard, and he would always lay just so pretty, and just want to sit there in the sun and let the kind of little breeze hit him on the face. And so I asked Shelley, I said, what do you think about scattering ashes in the back? And she was like, nope, because that way if I ever move from this house, I can't take him with me, and I want him with. And I said, okay, that's fair. I'm not gonna fight that. Sean and I talked about it, that when they gave us the ashes too, they did a little paw print, which the other dogs we cremated, they didn't do that. And of course, I'm telling you, when she showed me that, oh my God, I was destroyed. I couldn't even look at it because that's such a personal type thing, and he was such a damn big dog that was another reason I was like, the backyard's where I think of him, because he went out there and it's like, wow.
Yeah. I mean,
anyway.
Well, I think, and what Richard, and burying your dog personally, I think that's kind of like, while I do not like the funeral industry, I think the funeral process is important, because that is you sitting there seeing that this person is gone and putting them in the ground and being able to say goodbye. Where I've had with JJ, this is our sixth dog that we're on now. We've had two sets of two, and then Nala we only had for 3 years, but they've all been cremated too. And so, we would get the paw prints, but then this last one, Nala, they did a nose print, and that I wasn't expecting it, and that just devastated me when I saw that little nose. Like, oh fuck, come on.
To Skipper and to Jake,
Yes.
we begin this episode on that sadness. Let's shift gears now. Let's get away from that sad talk. This is usually an in-between would be where we go with that, but we're not going to do it. Minute 34, Sean, tell us what's going on. Get us out of doggy sadness.
We're going to start minute 34 with Michael Clark Duncan finishing the prayer and ends with Davidson recovering from getting fingered.
All right, minute 34, Marky Mark getting fingered. Here it comes.
Hasten the day when you will return and bring peace to your children. Amen.
Amen.
Next, you'll be telling us these beasts have a soul.
Of course they do.
The senator's daughter flirts with blasphemy.
Is there a soul in there? Do you have a towel?
As minute 34, we have an Oberon's worth of apes and humans, 2 displaced pods worth of humans and apes, wild humans in Ape City.
All right, so we get a lot of bowed heads as they're praying. Everyone's sort of glancing at each other around the table.
Not really praying.
Well, whatever they're doing. And then we get the extreme exuberance as everybody reaches for food. Marky Mark and our passive gorilla. We don't have. Is he our house gorilla?
House gorilla, yeah.
We
like
don't have a name for him yet.
I would call him like a butler or the head of the household, something like that.
They walk in. We get both Michael Clark Duncan, or is it Duncan Clark?
The only reason I finally remembered is it's alphabetical, so CD, Michael Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan watches.
McDonald's.
There you go.
Hey, there it is. He watches from behind and across as our house gorilla crosses with Marky Mark behind him. Thade watches the same thing. The camera pans around. We watch them enter. We go back to cross-cutting shots across the table as we have more of a conversation until finally Thade trips up Marky Mark, pulls him open, and we get the line of, is there a soul in there? Which I'll say right away, no, but there's a capped tooth in the back of that mouth.
We'll get to that, yeah.
And then we get Lisa Marie weirdly maniacally laughing,
giggling. I think
and I think I might see that face in my nightmares. It's a very scary looking face. We toss Marky Mark back to the ground. We get exchanged from the gorillas, and Thade gets a little upset as Marky Mark picks himself up.
Right, and then he asks for a towel, which I frequently do after taking something out of somebody's mouth.
Yeah.
Boom. Thank you. All right.
All right.
Well, let's. I want to touch on the prayer because we kind of ended with the prayer. Bless us, Holy Father, created all apes in His image. Hasten the day when you'll return and bring peace to your children.
So that makes me think a Jesus figure instead of a God, because you're returning. But then He's also saying you made us in Your image, so that's a God thing. So which one? I'm not sure.
I mean, my grandfather, when he would do prayer at the table, frequently would kind of start off with some generalities, and then sometimes would bring something a little more topical. So I assumed the bring peace to your children line was a directive to the people at the table as opposed to a societal situation.
Okay. Gotcha.
I could be wrong, but that'd be something my grandfather would do. Not necessarily calling individual people at the table, but he'd be talking about something about, bringing peace to whatever's happening in the country in that particular moment without getting too deep. So I assume that's what's happening because that's what the editor's doing by having the actors look back and forth at each other while this prayer is happening.
So your grandfather says, thank you for the food. Let's have peace in the Middle East. And can we all do good on our goddamn report cards this year?
Something along those lines. I don't think he'd say goddamn.
But you know what I'm saying?
I was trying to think of my grandmother in the same way, and I don't want to actually get into the words she would have said. That's why I stopped myself. I didn't want to be.
They're not. Some families have like a very kind of standard one that would be said every single time, and some kind of saying thank you for everybody that came for Christmas this year. Thank you exactly.
Thank you for health.
So I assume that he's Atar's dancing on the fact that bring peace to your children. He's talking to people at the table at that
Okay, I
moment,
can
which is
see
why
that.
they're all looking at each other.
Well, yeah, because he's the only one.
Nobody's
He's not
my
head.
head's down.
No, Lisa Marie, I think, is the only one that's actually praying.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just kind of glancing at each other.
You didn't talk about it last second, but she was. Well, you wanted to talk about it the last minute, but we were
Well,
into the
she was
time.
into the
She was
prayer.
really into the prayer.
With the
Whoa.
palm.
Oh yeah, she did get weird. Okay, we're jumping ahead to it. So let's go back to. Let's talk prayer just a little bit more, because at least we're getting textures, right?
Right,
We are getting
right.
some textures of there's a religious system that governs over these people. Now, we got that the last time with the lawgiver. We saw that within the original films, and that felt a little bit more honest, I think.
Because it was just
Again.
kind of a background thing. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't pushed to the front. Yeah.
Again, these 3 minutes are trying to give us glimpses of issues from the first film without actually fully embracing the characters embracing this reality.
Mm-hmm.
We've only got this one general that wants to pray, and everybody else is just kind of awkwardly bowing their head, feeling obligated to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? That's its own commentary, but it requires more than what we're given.
Which is kind of strange if you think of it. It's not even his house, the guy that's leading the prayer. You
Right.
would think that the senator would have been, if anybody's going to
True.
say, hey, we needed prayer, it'd be him doing it.
And you
And
wouldn't
he-
think the
military
military-looking
leader.
guy would be the one doing
Correct.
it, but maybe it's a very religious military organization. Who knows?
Well, then why wouldn't they be leading it? If that's the case.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So after we have the prayer, everybody looks up. The first people to reach across are Lisa Marie and her orangutan husband. Once again, Lisa Marie really went to
Really
ape
went
school.
to that food.
She also
yeah.
grabs it and turns her hand very ape-like
Yeah.
to bring it back. It's
Rotates it
almost
like
a-
inwards.
But I mean, when you think about her commitment to Mars attacks and those kinds of things,
Sure.
she's very much like I'm never going to win an Academy Award specifically for my acting.
Right.
So I'm going to
But
try
I
to
can
eat a scene.
I can do I can do everything to make myself alive in the background or the foreground of whatever I'm doing. She definitely studies that stuff. That is who she is.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
and then we get her first laugh at 20 seconds as the camera kind of swish pans around, and we get the first instance of her going cackling and being terrifying. What is her purpose at this other than to be the pretty person?
arm
that's-
candy.
Yeah, she is the arm candy.
It is mentioned in the script. There was a conversation between Lita and Ari at some point about her being him sleeping with a younger woman and that her being brought to dinner was inappropriate.
He's just trying to. He's sowing his oats, and he just.
Why don't I have that?
I do. You know,
Hey, he's got the script.
Yeah, you have the script. Maybe if they hand me that script when I walk in and watch this movie, I'd get that.
But it was also
those are
part of-
moments of subtext you need.
But it was also part of the conversation that Ari and Thade
It was
were
hell.
that they need to marry. She needs to marry him because of what it's going to do for their houses and why
all you had to
flirts
do-
with him. And there's some type of relationship. Now we may get into this in the next couple of minutes where we're going to wonder where this is coming from. But that conversation happened, and she's supposed to be the young mistress at the table. The senators.
All you have to do is whenever they come here and they show up and you say, hey, you want to freshen up? And she goes, oh, yes. And she moves away. And then you just have the senator say to this guy, the orangutan, go, you're choosing them younger and younger now, aren't you? Or something like that.
Anything like that, those moments of just... They want to pepper in so many of these things where we talked about that they're forcing the religion. The ideas of the lawgiver are put forward now as Semos and all these things. Those are less important to me than what matters to the characters and the reasons that they are who they are. We need to know that Thade and Ari have something going. Either they've been arranged marriage and it was broken. We need to know this orangutan brings young chimps in with him all the time.
Here's the deal.
He's the Jeffrey Epstein of this movie.
The table conversation
We're going to
is
find him hung some point.
the table conversation is trying to set up the world and dance around the politics of the original one.
Yes.
But in doing so, it's eschewing the idea that we need to know who these relationships are and how they interact with one another, because that apparently is what this movie is trying to do more. And that's what we need, right?
It is what we need. That's why you care about a character. Think about the original film. And if Zara and Cornelius were not allowed their little weird scrunchy face kissy moment
Lovey-dovey's.
at the very first, we don't care about them as a couple because you've given us. We all have that moment with whoever our person is in the world that is our partner. You have a moment of affection that's taken away from the eyes of others that lets us say, oh, they're just like me. Now I care. I don't care about anybody in this because I don't know who is who to anybody. I don't know why that matters. I don't know that Ari disapproves of him having young chimps. I don't know any of it. It's awful. See what it's done to me? It's made me angry.
Yes, it's totally fine. Totally fine.
All right, so Todd, if I'm your guest at a dinner party,
That wouldn't happen.
and I just kicked your dog and shoved my hands in its mouth and started pulling it open to examine the teeth, how happy would you be with me?
Oh, I'd look at you and go, "Hey, fuckface, what
On
are you
top
doing?"
of that, with the food that I wasted that he was carrying.
Yeah, okay, but are they trying to say in that you're right? But are they trying to say that Thade has such a presence that he
can
throws these
do
fits
this?
and everybody kind of
He
lets
can
him
do it. He
He
do
can
it
get
at
away with
once.
it
But if that happens, shouldn't I reach over to Richard in that moment?
and keep him back, stay back,
Don't
let him do
say anything.
it. Yeah.
And that tells the audience he's done it before. We don't know he's done this before.
Right. Everybody's very. Thade has. Okay, so, he asks if they have a soul. Right. The senator says, and then of course, Ari goes, "Of course they do." And then the religious general says, "You're flirting with blasphemy."
Yeah.
Right. So we're again, it's coming out of nowhere. I really just don't have any sense of like his piety to know that this is who he is, other than this sudden moment.
Right.
Well, we don't know if they have souls, but we know
That is
they have a dentist.
That's a really good edit, by the way, that when he goes from looking down in the mouth and saying, "Do you have a soul?" and then it cuts to the overhead. You watch so many times and fingers won't be in the same place. Boy, it's pretty spot on. That's good stuff there. But yeah, okay. Is there a soul in there? Why doesn't he fucking see that silver tooth? Because I guarantee you, none of these humans on this planet
have dental work done
Right.
like that.
Oh, I
What
see
the
what you're
fuck?
saying.
Yeah, he should look and go,
That's your issue.
That
Well,
bugs
yeah.
the shit out of me.
You think they would have put something over that tooth, or just
Nowadays
or
they
not
would do with CGI to fix
digitally
it.
cover it up, or not, or just use a different shot, make sure you don't see that tooth. But yeah, that's just like that's a giveaway that what the fuck is in this human's mouth. But yeah,
He knocks over the food. To your point, we don't have any sense. Thade is just able to do whatever he wants, right? And which is alarming that nobody's held back, nobody's calmed down, nobody's shocked by this. He pulls Marky Mark. He pulls his mouth open. For some reason, they made Marky Mark do some odd mouth gurgles, which we didn't need.
Hang on, I've got that right here. Let's listen. Hang on, bring it up. Oh yeah,
It was unnecessary.
no,
It was
They
unnecessary.
put that ADR in there.
maybe he was just creeped out by Tim Roth's finger.
I mean,
getting close to his mouth.
if they're gonna
monkey
if
fingers.
they're
Yeah.
gonna give him mouth gurgles, it should have been a little more pronounced.
Yeah.
Right. A little more, not quite so subtle.
Well, maybe what it is it's not necessarily mouth gargle. He's actually making noises of pain because if you notice, Tim Roth
He's
is
pulling
pulling his mouth open, so he might actually be in the story pulling it past the point of where you're supposed to open your jaw. So maybe he's actually hurting.
this is where I want to see the knife again. This is where I
Well,
want to know that he's got the knife.
I had
Even
that,
if he doesn't use it.
I had that as a note that it would have been more frightening instead if he had grabbed him and started cutting his chest and saying, "Is there a soul in here? Let's see."
I'm sorry. If I had his mouth, I might be asking, "Is there an actor in here?"
Is there talent in here? I don't think so.
So then right after that, we get giggling bitch Lisa Marie. Which look, she's having fun with this scene, and when I call her giggling bitch, I don't want to be a jerk to her because she's at least having fun. By the way, if you hear those sorrowful cries, that is my sweet dog Lucy. Apparently, her mommy's outside. I'm so sorry. We get that. Then he tosses aside, and we see that food laying on the ground that has been wasted, and
It looks like limes, and I can't remember. It's like a spiky orange fruit.
well, and what I find odd in this, so he looks back up. Everybody's sort of looking and giggling, except for our house gorilla.
Uh-huh.
And then we get the sneer
Koala melon.
from Michael Clark Duncan. Why is he giving him a sneer when the house gorilla is not doing anything? If the house gorilla had moved to pick up
Right.
Leo, then I would get the "Grr, don't do that. But it's just sort of.
Well, maybe
is it supposed to be a quiet like you shouldn't act like that here?
Well, I think that maybe the house gorilla approves of what happened. He doesn't like Davidson. I don't know because
I don't like Davidson.
Yeah, but that fruit, it's called a Koala melon, by the way. So this might,
Is it the one with the little pricky players on
Yeah,
it?
it's an exotic fruit originating from Africa that offers several health benefits due to its rich nutrient profile. Its thick orange rind is covered in spikes, which can make it seem a bit intimidating.
All right.
Again, this has those moments where the characters growl or bark or yell at each other, and I don't really understand why.
Right.
And We can blame some of it on editing. We can blame it on not having the characters fully fleshed out as to what's going on. I mean, at this point, trying not to talk about too much about future minutes, we're getting the sense that the house gorilla actually is sympathetic somehow.
Right.
Even though he barked at them earlier in the kitchen, he seems to have some type of concern about what happens to the people under his care.
I'm going to ask you guys for permission to do this. You both know that I've been working on a screenplay with a friend. We recently sent that off to a woman that does script analysis for the major studios and whatnot. And she came back, with very nice notes about things like this. But then she also said, you've got this and this here, that this needs to be done to this to make this pay off the way you want it to. Are they not sending studios have those people in-house that their job is to know scripts and know you're making this, here are the 20 beats that you need to hit. This film hits none of those.
Again,
and I watched it because I just got these notes from this lady the other night, and so my brain is like flying with all this shit. And I look at this and I think this is exactly the kind of thing she's talking about, where it's like you can't not have this moment.
It's what we've already talked about with the new Star Wars movies when they came out. Why didn't they have one pass with a room full of Star Wars fans?
Exactly.
Big fucking nerds who know it better than the screenwriters to go, oh, wait, you can't do this. One pass with Planet of the Apes fans saying, all right, guys, here it is. Here's the new script. Read it. Take a shot at it. Tell us what works.
Non-disclosure agreement, so you can't talk about it.
But writers and screenwriters, Moonfall people complain about the fact that once they've finished something or had something taken care of, even if it's gone through the stuff, then continues to get tweaked. Then continues to get tweaked, particularly on set when it's happening.
That probably is what happened.
When the writing is happening and it's being taken out of context, or again, an editor can kind of.
But I'm also answering my own question too, because if they're up against a writer's strike, the writer probably may actually be standing up and going, "I'm not showing up on set. You guys shouldn't be doing this. You're trying to force it." And it just feels exactly like, hey, no one's paying attention to the actual context of the scene, and a director is looking at many things. They're going to have to find the performance. They got to find the shots. They got to make sure everything's covered. They got so many things going on that, oh my God, Lucy's about to lose her mind. But you just hope that they're going to find more than this. But this
You've got
doesn't.
A new seal.
Yes, we do.
Seal.
This makes zero sense of why everybody's sort of sneering and doing what each other.
And Davidson is nothing but a piece of cardboard in every single one of these minutes. Like they did not give this actor anything.
Why? Why is he not saying
even
anything?
Marky Mark?
Right?
I'll give him some leeway on this because he's not given anything to do.
Right?
Why these 5 minutes? All this conversation, nothing.
Why,
Nothing.
when he was
You're
thrown down, did he not just say, "Keep your fucking fingers out of my mouth" or something? I mean, he's not
Get
even
your
talking.
hands off
Or
me.
why
Keep your
did he
hands out of me?
bite him?
Yeah.
That would be interesting if he bit him. See, they're animals. They bit,
Yeah.
and hit him, and then get into this and create chaos. There's zero.
Yeah.
Or hit. I mean, even bite him. Okay, yeah. Thade grabs him and has got his hands in his mouth, but you've got two arms. You can hit him in the face.
Okay.
And that would give a reason why Atar and the House Gorilla are suddenly now involved.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what? I can solve this. They need to take us in a time machine and let the three of us go back and go, boy, this scene, I'm telling you, it sucks. The thing is, what's weird about it is it sucks. It sucks mostly because it's not that bad of a scene. It just needs these little fixes, and suddenly the scene would have a ton of things that are working for it. But it's like they paid no attention to it. It's like beyond flat.
Yes.
All right, and with Beyond Flat, we're done with minute 34.
All right.
I'm now turning into my
It's almost
public
Friday.
radio voice, and I want everyone to drink
NPR.
in the lovely juices.
We'll take your
the
donations.
Essence.
Happy Thursday, everybody.
Happy Thursday.
And we're going to find out why rap lyrics are used in most court documents and why that's against the First Amendment for some reason.
Okay, and with that, everyone have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.